Welcome to Day 88 on the Trail. We have 5 readings for today, from Ephesians chapter 4, verses 1 through 24, Leviticus 24, the 86th Psalm, Proverbs 22, and Tobit chapter 12, verses 1 through 10. In this passage from Ephesians, Paul is calling for unity among the followers of Christ. And in verses 2 and 3, Paul describes how this unity is achieved. He says, "With all humility and gentleness, with patience, bearing with one another in love, making every effort to maintain the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace." Now, Paul then goes on to point out that our unity reflects the unity that comes from God. Our unity is part of our identity. Beginning in verse 4, "There is one body and one Spirit, just as you were called to the one hope of your calling, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is above all, and through all, and in all." Today, I would like to spend a little time talking about the one baptism that Paul includes in his list. Wherever there are Christians, there is baptism. This is the one ritual, or the one action, that we all agree is important and even necessary. And despite all of our differences about the manner and timing of baptism, we all agree that it decisively moves us from the world to becoming followers of Jesus. Yet even this one act, this one baptism, is not without its differences. When is it to happen? As an infant or at the age of accountability? How much water should be used? Do we sprinkle, pour, or practice full immersion? What should be known beforehand? And what preparations should be made? However, I look at this brief list, and I would argue that our differences among Christians regarding baptism is not as much about the function of baptism, but about its form, the way it is done. Now, form does matter. As with any symbol, it participates in reality. The way we do something makes a difference. Form should reflect its function and be held accountable to that function. If it does not, then it simply becomes an empty ritual, or just going through the motions. So what is the function of this one baptism? First, we become part of a community. As Paul says, there is one baptism that Christians have been experiencing since the birth of the church in the book of Acts. Second, baptism is an act of cleansing or purification through water. In this sense, baptism is an outward expression of an inward change. Third, and perhaps most importantly, we participate in Jesus' death. As death was destroyed at the crucifixion, we die to our slavery to sin. We are reborn to a new life that precludes any undisturbed continuation of life's previous patterns. In Mark chapter 10, verse 39, Jesus says to James and John, "The cup that I drink, you will drink. And with the baptism with which I am baptized, you will be baptized." Baptism is not a mere ritual of initiation, but a powerful participation in the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus. In Galatians chapter 2, verse 19, Paul also writes, "I have been crucified with Christ, and it is no longer I who live, but it is Christ who lives in me. And the life I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me." And finally, and this is something that we too often forget, baptism is a beautiful, multi-layered gift, not a requirement. While we may not fully understand baptism or agree on its form, in this one baptism, we remember who we are because of the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus. That we have been cleansed from the inside out and are now part of a family, his family, together, and we can become the people that he has called us to be. In Proverbs 22:13, we find a creative critique of laziness. A lazy person says, "There's a lion outside. I shall be killed in the streets." Here, we permit fear the power to paralyze us. And this momentary paralysis can quickly turn into habitual laziness. Typically, this form of laziness begins with the words, "What if?" What if I can't meet a deadline? What if I fail? What if someone disagrees with my decisions? What if I have to sacrifice something or anything? What if everyone looks down on me? What if there's a lion or a tiger or a bear out there? Oh my. So let's start by answering a what if question. What if there isn't a lion in the streets? What would you do? Your answer to this question is you plan to move forward. You plan for the future. Now, let's say there is a lion in the street. You can still have the same basic plan. Now, you might need to modify that plan a bit to deal with the predator. Maybe you learn to use a whip, or you have the number for animal control on speed dial. But if your only answer is to cower behind the couch and hide, you have already failed. You sacrificed your mission without a fight. Fear wins, and you lose, along with anyone else who is depending on you. Real life teaches us that there will always be a lion in the road if you look hard enough. The question is, what will you do about it? Now, to make sure we understand the danger of laziness, this idea is paralleled and expanded in Proverbs 26, verses 13 through 15. The lazy person says, "There's a lion in the road. There's a lion in the streets." As a door turns on its hinges, so does a lazy person in bed. The lazy person buries a hand in the dish and is too tired to bring it back to the mouth. Perhaps this example is a bit more familiar. There are days when I don't want to get out of bed. The alarm goes off in the morning, and I roll over like a door on its hinge and take a wild swing in the vicinity of the alarm clock, which happens to be blaring "Eye of the Tiger." Well, that's not entirely true. I still roll over like a door on a hinge, but these days I have to blindly search for the small button on the side of my cell phone because opening my eyes means I'm no longer asleep. Then I hinge my way back to the dark side of the bed. Like rolling over again and again each morning, a door turning on its hinge is not doing its most basic job. A door is either open to allow entry or closed to prevent access. The entire function of a door is to be open or closed. To swing back and forth with no apparent purpose is the only thing a door should not do. The swinging door appears to be busy. It is in constant motion, endlessly squeaking its way between open and closed. The door moves, but without purpose. Have you ever thought, "The boss just walked in, look busy"? We can look busy while merely going through the motions. We can even be busy without being productive. Those wasteful moments that we spend swinging busily on our hinges fail to honor the opportunities that we have been given. We betray the time that we have been blessed to inhabit. After all, you set "Eye of the Tiger" on your alarm before going to bed for a reason. So, rising up to the challenge of our rival starts by getting out of bed. Thank you for joining us today. Until next time, stay on the trail.